Hail and welcome. This is the talk on cord cutting, recapitulation, energy retrieval, and soul retrieval. I know, right? That's my little wolf down at my feet. So yeah, these are going to be more casual talks. I'm just chatting with you. Just going to turn things on, talk about what's going on. A disclaimer, this is all from my learnings, my teachings, my mentors, my personal experiences with both medicine and elders and deep study. So it might not be the same as what you've heard. It might be different. I'm always learning. I'm always growing. I'd love to hear other people's perspectives and respect each other's perspectives. So if it's different than what you know, it might have something you're missing. If it's different from what I know, it might have something I'm missing. But we all have our different practices. We all have our different scenarios of what works for us. So these are the talks. Cord cutting. Cord cutting is a different term. It's often used in spirituality, Northern European witchcraft, and pagan practices. There's different aspects of the term. Some people actually do cord cutting. They see the actual cutting of a cord. That's not how I tend to do things. There's different opinions within the community that cutting a cord, if you've got a string and you cut it, there's leftover. It severs from here, but there's leftover roots still within a system. Some people don't see it that way, and whatever's experientially functional for you and what works for you, I honor. Personally, one of the teachings that I've found is clearing out a space, clearing out what is draining your energy, taking from the roots and everything out, and then filling that area with your own energy, your own power again, filling that hole. So if you're cleaning something out, there's a teaching of always putting something in, because if there's a hole, if there's a vacuum, something comes back in. And if that pattern is negativity, and if that pattern is something unhealthy, often it will call the same thing in. So that's where we can clean things out and feel great, and then not feel great again if it fills that space back in with a similar type of thing. Another scenario from my own personal experience and from many teachings is you can do recapitulation, you can do cord cutting, you can do soul retrieval and clearing, but if you step back into the patterns that caused that, if you re-engage with those people, if you re-engage with those scenarios and reform those patterns and stories, then the roots will form again, and those seeds are planted of that similar root, that similar strand, thread, cord. So we need to change our patterns. We need to change our lifestyle. But the first thing is to free up our energy. And so that is the art of recapitulation. In Toltec traditions, recapitulation is one of the very powerful, very essential art forms. In Toltec tradition, they're seen as a physical body, and then they're seen as a luminous cocoon that surrounds us. That luminous cocoon has fibers that go out into the world, and those are our energetic fibers that perceive outside the human form and outside the human body. And this is in Toltec perception systems. And so throughout our life, as we form ourselves, who we are, our identity, our ego, our interaction with the world and other people, strands connect to experiences and people. And those experiences and people form us and form where our energy goes. So recapitulation is reclaiming those energies, reclaiming those strands, and having all of our energy return to us. So much of our energy goes out into how we act, our different masks in different scenarios, how we act with different people in different situations, all takes energy. And a lot of that energy is unconsciously drained from us. So the art of recapitulation is going in and reclaiming our energy, cutting those cords, not necessarily severing a line, but removing a line, removing the roots and that cord all together and giving the energy back to where it came from and reclaiming our energy back. So there's no more line of energy going between you and that person, place, thing, experience. So this is the art of recapitulation. This is the art of cord cutting and soul retrieval. Soul retrieval is another perception on this. Some may say it's very different. I see it as very similar, where soul retrieval is that the idea that we've left pieces of our soul in scenarios from traumatic experiences. When a traumatic experience happens, a piece of our soul can be harmed or left or isolated in that scenario. So soul retrieval is bringing back the wholeness of our soul, or the wholeness of our luminous cocoon, our luminous egg, our aura, our energy body. And so the art of recapitulation and cord cutting is once again removing the trauma, removing the negative story, removing the negative experience from our perception field. Not that it didn't happen, and not that we don't remember it anymore, but that it no longer affects us. It no longer drains our energy. And reclaiming our energy and fulfilling ourselves with our own center of power, our own connection to the infinite. And that being the source of our energy, that being where energy comes from the core of our being and ourself, from the heart of the universe itself, not all these strands attached to other people, places, and things that define who we are. We define who we are through our connection to the divine, to the infinite. And so these are exercises that I've learned through the years, through studying many different paths and traditions. One of the experiences, I've had many experiences with cord cutting, with recapitulation, with soul retrieval throughout my journey. An early one I did with cord cutting with an ex-partner, where I actually took an item of that ex-partner that I still had, did a deep ritual cast circle on the full moon, went into deep trance, and actually tied strings to that item and to me around my waist, around my will. And the Toltec see the will as just below the navel, just outside the body, is the center of will, where our emanations are strong and can weave out into the world. And so I tied a string, or several strands and strings, to that item and to myself, and then went deep into trance and physically undid those knots, physically undid those strands, and gave them back to that place, to that item, to that person. And afterwards, you could burn those strings in a loving, peaceful, releasing way. Forgiveness is key, both forgiveness of self and forgiveness of the other person. Some people have a challenge with forgiveness. I understand that. There's experiences that are very challenging and difficult, and they're very valid in your being and in your experience. And it's our responsibility to reclaim our power. And as long as we hold a grudge, as long as we hold challenge to that person, there's still an energetic tie. There's still an energetic connection. They still have control over us. When we forgive for us, because it gives us freedom, gives us control. When we take responsibility, we take control of our situation and our life. We are responsible for all of our situations, all of our experiences. It's not our fault necessarily, but it's our responsibility to claim our energy and claim our lives. So that's where we're responsible in our own forgiveness of self for the choices we made, and forgiveness of others for the choices they made. And a lot of it is doing our best. We're doing our best. Other people are doing our best. We live in a world that's cast with curses and cast with generational trauma and cast with crazy stories and experiences. Many of us don't know what other people have gone through and what other people have experienced that forms their persona, their being, and their choices in the matter. Sometimes it's through pain and suffering and trauma. It's not an excuse. We need to be responsible. We need to be impeccable. We need to be as good as we can be in helping ourselves and others. So this is reclaiming that. This is reclaiming that energy, reclaiming that freedom, reclaiming that power in the art of recapitulation, in the art of cutting cords, or releasing cords is a better term. So these meditations will help you release these cords through breath, through meditation, through living an actual experience. It's not just a vision. It's not just a meditation. The Toltecs would say it's an actual re-embodiment, re-empowerment, and rewiring of our energy field into ourselves and into the source, as opposed to connected to others. So these meditations will help in doing that. The first one has a description and then a basic breathing exercise based off of the Toltec traditions. The second one in the series is without the description and straight into the basic breathing exercise. The third one will be a more intricate traditional breathing exercise and Toltec recapitulation of first releasing, and there's a releasing breath that's really powerful, that's really reclaiming, and then reclaiming our energy. And these are two different videos, so we can go deep into the release and then deep into the reclaim. But as I said earlier, make sure you do both of those videos if you're doing the deeper work, because once you release, you need to fill it. You need to reclaim energy from you, your source, the divine, the source of the universe, the infinite. Have that connection, because if you leave that empty hole, it will tend to fill with other things. And if patterns are negative, sometimes it's the negative that comes back. In the Toltec traditions, they talk about the luminous egg. They say, our total being consists of two perceivable segments. The first is the familiar physical body, which all of us can perceive. The second is the luminous body, which is a cocoon that only seers can perceive. A cocoon that gives us the appearance of a giant luminous egg. And this is our extended energy body. This is where recapitulation comes in, because where our energy is drained is seen as dark spots in that egg. So some see it as cords coming out from our energy body internally. Some see it as dark spots in the luminous egg. In Toltec recapitulation, there are 3 steps. So in the reclaiming of our energy, our story, and our freedom, there are 3 ritualistic steps in Toltec magic. 1 is the list. So we make a list of every energetic, formative connection we've ever had. As extensive as that sounds, it is. This is a lifelong journey. Recapitulation, we're constantly reconnecting our energy, and we need to reclaim all the energy that we've put out. In the Toltec tradition, where they were masters of energy collection. They're masters of self-reflection and really just getting in and seeing where all their energy was to cultivate all the energy they possibly could. They would go so extensively deep into this practice that they would create a list of every energetic tie they've ever made and reclaim the energy from every one of those ties. As extensive as that is, we can start with that on the more powerful experiences. So the experiences that drain us the most and come up the most in our perception. So some of the best ways to do that is the most immediate experiences and the most powerful and memorable experiences. So one of the techniques to start is often lovers. Our romantic connections and our deep, intimate connections with others are one of the most formative and draining and freedom-taking experiences in our lives, both from negative experience and positive. Often our freedom is tied to our desire. So our desire to avoid pain and suffering, but also our desire lured towards pleasure and bliss. So both negative and positive experiences can trap us in a pattern, trap us in an agreement. Oh, if I act this way, I get a present, I get a treat, I get love and affection. If I act this way, I get punishment. It's the carrot and the stick sort of scenario that domesticates our mind, domesticates our energy. So through recapitulation, we can free ourselves from both negative and positive stimuli that blind us and have us working in unconscious patterns. So we make the list. The list often starts with lovers and our most immediate, powerful experiences. So working from present to the past, we can make a list of all our romantic encounters, especially ones that formed us in any way of how we see ourselves and how we interact with others. Make an extensive list of every lover you've ever had, every romantic experience with another that you've ever had, from now till the beginning of your romantic experiences. Take your time, go over. There might be people that you forget, and as you work on your lists, you remember. So make an extensive list of that. Then from lovers, we move to family members, mentors, teachers. Family members also have a very distinct effect on our energy body. Mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, siblings, people within our circle and field when we were young really affect how we see ourselves and how we define ourselves, and that traps our energy. So we release that by recapitulating all the experiences, removing the ties, reclaiming and releasing the energy connections to all of those people who told us who we are and how to be. That reclaims our energy. And then from there, we can go to places, things, schoolmates, smaller and smaller experiences. So we go from the strongest to the smallest, and then we get more and more energy to do this properly and clearly. And as I said before, as we do this meditation, we're really doing it. It's not just a visualization. It's not just a mind idea. It's a rewiring of our energy field, a rewiring of our energy cords, coming back into ourselves, feeding ourselves from our core, from the divine, from the infinite, and not other people. So that's the lists. They're extensive. We can start with these meditations on just one that comes to mind. You don't have to go through all this before you start, but it's good to do if you want to get that extensive and that deep in your reclaiming. The breathing. The breathing in these techniques is an activation into the body, into the energy field, into your luminous egg, into your fibers. The breathing makes it real. It connects the outside and the inside. These breaths and the work of our breath is profound and can have profound effects, from Wim Hof's experiences with the deep Iceman breathing to meditations across the world. Breathing has been a way to connect deeply into ourselves, and the breathing in these exercises is very powerful and very helpful. And the next, for those that want to go way down the rabbit hole, the next is the box. So one of the esoteric aspects of the Toltec practice is that they would actually build a box, their own box, of the most natural materials they could find, the minimal amount of nails or metal, if they could help it, and build the most natural box. I think they would paint it black even. And the box is suited to you to be, I think it's 2 inches around your body at the closest points, but the closer to your body, the better. The darker, the better, although leaving ventilation. And you would make this box, and it would be your recapitulation box. And you would do your entire list within this box and then burn it when you're done. That's quite extensive, and feel free to build yourself a box and have a dark spot where the minimal amount of sounds and distractions is better. The more sensory deprivation, which I think is part of the box experience, the better. And then we add a sensory deprivation experience with our recapitulation. It can be done in a closet. It can be done in a dark meditative space. It can be a visualization of your box, a visualization of a safe space. That's what we do in these videos. There's also the reclaiming of energy, and recapitulation can be done for those very adventurous and deep into the path by burying oneself in the earth, or being buried in the earth. You leave your face clear. You can put branches and sticks over your face if you wish, and branches and sticks over the burial, which obviously you have a friend to help you with the burial, and someone helping you, guiding you, making sure you're safe. Once again, and these are all your choices. Any of the things I share here on Warrior's Path, it's your individual responsibility, how deep you want to take it, and making your own decisions of what's good for your body, your path, and your choice. There are many things I've done on my journeys that I would not suggest others to do. I've walked into the desert in the middle of Mexico not knowing where I am. I've done things that put my life and my health at risk in order to follow this journey. And so these are my experiences, and a lot of this is just me documenting for me, for my family, for my tribe and kin. So it's your choice what you follow and what you choose. So if you want to bury yourself in the earth to do recapitulation, all the power to you. That's your choice. I didn't tell you to do it. Same with the box, or you can sit comfortably and do the meditations on your own. It can be simple. Same with the breathing. If you get out of pattern, don't worry about it. If something feels amiss, wait for it to reconnect. Don't be too articulate and concerned, because that's another indulgence of the mind, to be overly concerned and distract oneself. If it takes a little while to get the breathing pattern in and it doesn't feel comfortable, take your time to do it. Be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself. Just do your best. That's all that can be asked. So that's the list, the breathing, and the box. One of the things that might come up, or one of the things to meditate on in recapitulation, is also we spend a lot of time reflecting on the past and how it affects our present. Often, it's not the actual past. We'll have an experience. We'll feel a charge from that experience. That emotional charge will affect our story and our perception of the event, and sometimes consciously or unconsciously we'll describe the story to either others or ourselves, and we'll change it slightly because of our emotional charge, because of us not realizing the whole scenario. That story and that agreement digs into our energy field and drains our energy. So sometimes we're not even seeing the clear experience, and in recapitulation, that can come up. Seeing the experience from a third perspective, from an outside perspective, watching it like a movie, disassociated, separate, watching the story of what actually happened neutrally, outside yourself and the other person. It may have happened differently. You may have forgotten things or missed pieces. There may be spots to learn and take responsibility for your integration, your interaction, your actions in a scenario. Never for guilt or shame, only for lessons, learning, reclaiming and regaining energy, heightening our perception, heightening our clarity, being more efficient in perception. So, watching the scenario from outside, and then in present time, inserting yourself into the memory, into yourself in that vision. Pay attention to the underlying feelings. Go deep, go underneath the surface story of what's going on, and deeper into the scenario. What are you really feeling? What is the purpose here? What is the lesson here? What is being triggered in my core from other times, from other scenarios that I've imprinted onto this scenario and then built a whole story around it? And breathe through this. Use the breath, especially in the advanced videos, in the advanced meditations. You can really dive in that breath, really dissect the experience, really reclaim the energy, gain the perspective, gain the lesson, and advance your perception and clarity. Advance your freedom from these experiences. And then when you come out of the experience, you restore your energy. Exhale the unhelpful parts, let them go. Inhale the helpful parts, the lessons, the learnings, the independence in your own energy, in your own power and freedom. So this can be a very powerful exercise. It's in depth. You can do one experience for something that's bothering you, which is often done in cord cutting and Western traditions, or as the Toltec do, you can make this a whole journey of power, a journey of reclaiming, a journey of freedom. One of the experiences that I had down in Mexico, working with the grandfather medicine, I was working with some traditional people down there, and at one point I went by myself to a beach on the ocean, completely isolated, built myself a fire, and through my journeys, I was guided to quest to some of the temples and seek out a large boulder of Manta Huichol, the cloak of the Huichol, the cloak of the shaman obsidian, which is seen as some of the most powerful and sacred obsidian to the Aztec and the Mayans, that the ripples of the purple and blue are seen as the visions of Grandfather Peyote within the obsidian. So it's a very transcendental stone. It's a very powerful stone. And so you can see on some of my wild man in a van experiences my journey down there and my quest to find the giant boulder that I was told no existo, does not exist. And after a huge Indiana Jones style quest on the back of a motorcycle in little towns in the middle of nowhere in Mexico, I finally found the boulder that didn't exist. And I had them cut it and polish it into slabs to make mirrors and daggers. And this was just what I was guided to do when I was down there by the medicine. And so I actually have a set of mirrors and a set of daggers made out of Huichol obsidian. And I wasn't sure why I was to gather this, or why. I wasn't sure why I was to quest for this and gather these things. It was just very strong that I needed to, and the trail led me to Teotihuacan, the temples of the sun, the moon, Quetzalcoatl, and I blessed them all on those temples and had the daggers and the mirrors made. And then several weeks later, when I was back on the coast, working in the Temescals and working with the medicine, I lit this fire and had this mirror and this dagger with me. And deep in the medicine trance, deep in the middle of the night, I felt around my will, just below my navel, I felt this dark, goopy thing that had seemed to have fallen asleep. I saw it as a personification. I saw it as an actual perceptual, anthropomorphized possibly, or conscious thing that was attached to my will center, to just below my navel. And I was aware of this dark, goopy thing. And with the mirror, I could see perceptions of it. And in the other hand, I had the dagger. And as it was asleep, I pulled it out like the roots of a chord, like the roots of recapitulation, like the roots of chord release, chord removal. And I slowly got all the little strands of it out of my navel. And then with the dagger, I cleared off and cleared out everything around that area. And then I released it into the fire. And I threw that thing in the fire, and it just dissolved, burned away, went back to source, went back to the other, the ethers, the other world. And I spent the night with that mirror and with that dagger, clearing and cleaning out all the little strands and all the little attachments. And it just happened. I wasn't consciously recapitulating. I wasn't intending that in this ceremony. I just was guided by the medicine, was guided by this scenario with this obsidian mirror and this obsidian dagger. And then once it was cleared out, where the dagger cut and cleared everything out and the roots were all removed, then I placed the mirror over that to protect it. And it was like the mirror was like a shield, not letting anything external in. As I meditated onto my depth, onto my core, into the source of all being, the internal sun, the internal light, the golden glow. And I filled my energy with that. I filled that area with that self source, with that self energy. And I went around and I did that to all places in my body where I could feel kinks and ties and crunches and connections. And I pull and clear and pull and clear and mirror and fill and mirror and fill. So that was one of my personal experiences guided through medicine on energy recapitulation. And that I wasn't thinking that's what it was at the time. I was just acting in the flow of the medicine, feeling what was coming through and what was to be done. And for people interested, I do have those mirrors and do have them to work with. And I know that they're supposed to go to people doing deep, deep work. So I don't need to keep all 7 mirrors and all 7 daggers. I need 1 mirror and dagger for myself. So that's something on the path and in the journey that if guided on that path, and if our paths cross, for practitioners and personal journeyers that really feel the depth of the work, those may be attainable either through myself or through other sources. And I'll be returning to Mexico. I start driving down in a week to head back down to work with those people, with that medicine, and with those workings again. So feel free to leave any comments down below. Feel free to subscribe wherever the subscribe button is, and feel free to follow these meditations. I would start in order. Start with the first one. Dip your feet in the water. Try that simple breath of the inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And that's the basic one. And then it gets into the more in-depth, diving in and really clearing out and really refilling. But that's some of the talks. I wanted to explain it. I wanted to have a chat. There's going to be more videos. I'm back. They're going to be a little more casual. I might do some on my phone as I'm on my journeys to Mexico. The rune journeys have been diving deep. Revo is recorded. I just need to do the editing, and I'll continue on the rune journey as much as I can. And at the same time, I'm about to head to Mexico. So that will be more Toltec talks, more traditional medicines in Mexico, more working, interviewing the people down there and sharing my experiences. So both this channel for diving deep and the real lessons and learnings, and if you want to follow my Wild Man in a Van or Wild Man in the Wolf, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and here on YouTube, and that's where I'll be documenting my casual journeys and my casual adventures. So it's good to be back. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up and share it if you like, and leave anything in the comments below of your experience with recapitulation, cord cutting, soul retrieval, energy reclaiming, and what you think it is or isn't. And we all have our different experiences of what works for us. And if it works, that's really where the source is. Does it work for you? So I hope some of these things work for you, and I'm here to share. Hopefully this helps you reclaim your freedoms, helps you reclaim your power and clarity. Blessings. Hail.